call to order the meeting of Mayor and Council. I want to thank everybody for being here. If you will rise for the invocation by Councilman King.
Bow our heads, please. Heavenly Father, Lord Jesus, Lord, we just thank you for this day. Lord, we just thank you for all the blessings that you have given to each and every one of us. Lord, just thank you for tonight, the ability for us to be here, Lord, and the ability for us to serve our community and all of the hard work that went into making this meeting possible. Lord, just continue to keep our city lifted up. Lord, we have a lot of great things that are happening and a lot of great things to come, Lord. And at the end of the day, we just give you all the praise and glory and honor that you deserve. And Lord, just continue to keep our city, county, and state, as well as our country lifted up, Lord. We need you more now than ever before. We ask all these blessings in your wonderful and glorious name. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Okay, as a reminder, we do have an executive session planned after this meeting tonight. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
No, sir, there are not.
Okay, we've got a lot of minutes to approve. So we had our last regular meeting on May 25th. Those minutes were sent out. If there are no questions or comments, I'll accept a motion to receive those minutes.
Councilman Holland, Mr. Mayor, I make that motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
Councilman King, I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, okay, it's unanimous. We also had the workshop number 1 budget meeting on May 4th. Those minutes were sent out. If there's no questions or comments on those, I'll accept a motion to receive those minutes.
Councilman McCoy, I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Councilman Holland, I second that motion.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, okay, it's unanimous. And finally, we had the second meeting of the budget workshop on May 18th. Those minutes were sent out. If there are no questions or comments, I'll accept a motion to receive the minutes.
Councilman King, so moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Councilman McCoy, I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. I don't know that we've ever had that many minutes in one night. But, hey, Chief. All right, so tonight we get to do the mayor's right choice, and I want to come out and publicly say that we call this award the mayor's right choice, but because I don't believe it's right for just me to make this selection, I push all the applications out to everybody here on council because I either know the family or the person individually, and you guys usually know them as well. So this way we get the best possible vote, fair vote that we can. We had a tremendous response and really a lot of great applicants. And this year's winner is Maddie Krieg. And I just want to read a couple things from her application that really struck me. And on her second line, she says, "In all honesty, I am no more special than any other senior in Seaford, and many are deserving of this scholarship." And when you have somebody that humble and that kind of heart, it really just struck a chord. So I'm going to also read her plaque into the mic so I don't stand up and do it. So it's the plaque. Says the Mayor's Right Choice Award presented to Maddie Krieg for making the right choices and exhibiting a drug-free lifestyle, for being a positive role model for our youth, and for contributing to an improved quality of life in our schools and our Seaford community, presented on the 8th day of June 2021 by Mayor David Genshaw and the City Council. And with that, she receives a check for $500 as well. So I'm going to call Maddie up and we're going to take her picture and then she can shake all of your guys' hands. We should give her a round of applause.
Great job. Congratulations. You're welcome. Yeah.
Thank you, Maddie. Please do not feel like you have to stay here. You don't have to stay for the council meeting. You're free to go. Thank you again. Congratulations.
I'll take the money and run.
That's right. Hey, listen, that that role and trying to choose those winners is tougher every year. The kids that come in are such great kids. And so, oh, we have a message for the graduating senior class. Thank you. Forgot. Hi, this is Mayor David Genshaw, and seniors, what an incredible journey you have had getting to this point. Certainly you've had an experience like none other going through what you've gone through, but this will certainly make you stronger for sure. And on behalf of the City Council and all the employees here at the City of Seaford, we just want to wish you all the best and say congratulations. Way to go. Great job, Sierra. You really do super work, so we appreciate that. Got the privilege last night to go to graduation and to see those kids there with the opportunity to celebrate, which is something they've not been able to do. It's you can certainly see people are very excited about getting back together, and it was an honor to be there to watch them graduate. So thank you. All right, next we have correspondence. Do we have any correspondence?
Yes, sir. I do have one piece of correspondence. It's from Mr. C.J. Spiro, and he writes, Mr. Mayor, I wanted to take a minute to express my gratitude to you and everyone down at City Hall. Buying the old Allen building, renovating it, and starting a business in it have been and continue to be challenging. The City of Seaford could have made that experience exceptionally harder. Instead, quite the opposite is true. You have welcomed us from day one. You took a chance on us by allowing us the exceptional use of the building, and you continue to help us through the various inspection processes and license applications. Your police department was also very patient with us, and we worked through some false alarms with our security system. For all this and more, we are truly grateful. I would like to update you on our progress. We've poured hundreds of thousands of dollars into the building to date. It's proven difficult to balance the rehab and build revenue at the same time, but we're getting there. Soon you will see some exterior improvements like paint and some more cleanup that will make the property shine. During the rehab process, as well as normal business operations, we've spent a lot of money with local businesses and contractors, many of which are in Seaford. We have hired 6 Sussex County residents so far, with at least 1, possibly 2 more starting next week. Again, another challenge in this political and economical climate. But we are making progress. Within a few more months, we will need at least 5 to 6 more employees, with the possibility of much more help needed. As we stated during our meetings, walk-in retail is not part of our business model. However, we will accommodate from time to time. It is usually no more than 1 or 2 customers per week. So far, we have had customers drive from New York, New Jersey, Maryland, and Pennsylvania, as well as a couple from Wilmington. Of course, when they're in town, they need to refuel and usually ask where is a good place to eat locally, thus bringing in additional revenue to Seaford. While I realize the impact of this is small, we are still proud of it. I have to tell you that I'm really taken back by the sense of community pride I get when observing the way you and your team conduct yourselves. I don't know who manages your Facebook page, but they get 5 stars from me. My other warehouse is located in York Township, Pennsylvania. And as a comparison, your team had more posts in the month of May than York Township has had in the past year. Not just how much you post, but the content as well. Announcement, events, the celebration of students and businesses, etc. Outstanding job. I don't think the significance of this should ever be overlooked. You guys break the mold in my view of government. I can think of quite a few governing bodies that could learn a thing or two from the city of Seaford and what this should look like. Keep up the great work, everyone. It's glaringly obvious that you and your team truly care about your community, and I promise you that you are making a difference. As a result of this, you've inspired me and my team to want to give back to this community. We look forward to a time in the near future when our revenue will allow us to do just this, and we look forward for your guidance on how we can give back. Sincerely, C.J. Spiro of Showtime Power Sports.
Always like to have a nice letter like that every now and then. So we appreciate CJ moving his business here, and glad he's here in Seaford. So, all right, first on business is our FY22 proposed budget.
Good evening, Council. Mayor. Council has in their packages the budget summary. I'd just like to hit a few highlights of the FY22 proposed budget for Council and the public this evening. There is no tax rate, water, sewer, or electric user fee increases in this draft budget. Included in the budget are new revenues from the Lowe's, Delaney, and Spruce Street water tower attachment leases. Revenues from full operation of the Unified Sewer District are included in the sewer budget. The 3% lodging tax collection for a full year this year, and the rental license program fees. This budget invests and proposes in city infrastructure and human resources, as well as continuing to increase reserve account balances for future expenditures. This is just how the budget's laid out. Our electric department is obviously the largest of our revenue maker, and our total budget this year is just shy of $39 million without internal transfers, or $29,907,676. So you have electric as the largest budget issue, and then police closely follow behind. The total revenues with internal transfers, once that's all said and done, takes our budget to $33,700,506. So you can see we track over the last few years. This is the largest budget in the last few years, so our budget is growing. We're taking on a lot more projects, as council is well aware, to meet the needs of growth and demands of the city. Our transfer from the electric funds down a little bit this year. A couple reasons for that. Obviously, COVID had hit us, so some of the commercial sectors had shuttered. I will say, due to growth, our residential consumption is up, but it's still a strong return for us at almost $3 million, $2.87 million return on that business unit. Transfer from the water fund, this is the second year, FY20 and FY22, it's proposed at 0. We did that. We did not transfer to the general fund in an effort to balance the budget. So that was one of the outcomes of the budget hearings. The transfer from the sewer fund, I referenced earlier the Unified Sewer District. That returned to us some revenues, so we were able to increase that to $556,000 this year. So that's very helpful to underwrite general fund. Budgeted tax collection, this is a great story here. Our taxes are up 5%, so that returned to us an additional $128,000 in revenue due to growth that we've experienced. during our comprehensive plan meeting, they talked about how much growth has occurred in the last few years, and that's really is helping us for tax collection. Reserve transfer history. So to balance the budget this year, we did not have a balanced budget. We had to lean on our reserves. So you can see there, $559,764 was the amount we had to lean on our reserves to balance the budget. You can see there, looking back from FY18, that trend there is good. Generally, we're reducing that by increasing our revenues and continuing to monitor our costs and reduce our expenses where possible. The blue line, I'll just mention that. That is what we actually utilized in the budget. Even though council authorizes us to balance it with it, not every year do we use that allotment due to not being at full staff, projects not proceeding as we had hoped, things of those natures. So I just have one slide on debt service. We monitor this every year, so our debt now is, historically it's been running around $700,000, and you can see where it's projected over the next few years to reduce. I will say that does include the projected debt service for the utility building expansion that we just recently approved. So that in itself, again, is a good trend where we are paying off some debt, some long-term debt, and not replacing it with so much long-term debt. Charges for service, as stated, no changes in the charges for service. So the tax rate, water rate, and sewer rate are the same as they have been since 2018, so almost 5 years without a rate increase. Some staffing considerations in the budget, and again, this is just budget highlights. There were a lot more that council went through in their deliberations, but just hit some of the highlights here. The police department has, they've desired to maintain their staff of 29 officers. They have asked if they can return 2 patrol sergeants, so we'll go from 2 sergeants to 4, and that is supported in this budget. That is not new people, that is just from promotions from within, and they would like to retain their staff and administrative sergeant position, which is included in the budget numbers. The electric department, due to retirements that are pending and succession planning in that department, they have asked to include in this budget the construction leader position. They tried to do that in 2017, could not fill that position, but they'd like to open it up again in October. And again, that will not be an additional position. That would hopefully be a promotion from within for one of the members of the department. And then they would like, because of succession planning and pending retirements, they would like to add an employee in the electric department in this next month if this budget is adopted. So that is in this budget, a full-time employee, 1 FTE. Once we have our next retirement that's pending, we would not replace that person at this time. This is just getting a person started to get them involved in the training, up and running, so they can go on call, start their training. It's about a 4-year training process to get them fully functioning as an electrical lineman. In economic development, we are requesting to move our part-time marketing assistant to full-time to continue to assist the director with public information marketing. So that would be addition of a full-time, from part-time to full-time for the entire FY22 budget year, should the council approve the budget. Parks Department, we've been doing this for several years now. We did not replace a full-time employee. We went to 2 part-timers. We've had mixed success with that. We're going to continue doing it. The slight change here is that now we are able to do a part-time seasonal position. So for a very short season, the summer season, when we are at our peak there in that department, we can actually pay someone for 40 hours. So we've not advertised the position that way in the past. We're going to try that. We were able to hire 1 person this year with those changes to the job description. And again, these are just some highlights of capital items. There are many more in the budget. These are just some of the notable ones. We are going to add additional camera in the council room because now that we're live streaming so much, there's some additional camera views that are necessary. So that is in this budget. Design and engineering for phase 2 of the Western Sussex Business Campus. Our agreement of sale requires us to start engineering in this next budget year. So there's $120,000 there for that. And we want to keep our momentum going. So that is included. There's some signage for the downtown area, wayfinding signage, $5,000 for that to help bring traffic to our downtown. Once visitors get here, then they can navigate the shops and businesses in our downtown. Infrastructure and development here for our network storage to the tune of $41,000. This is a multi-year process. We've been advancing our IT infrastructure and architecture, and this is just another step in that process. We're having so much storage of data now with body-worn cameras and the deployment of cameras fixed and otherwise throughout the city that these large storage requirements are necessary. Demolitions, as you know, the code department has a very long list of demolitions that could occur, but we try to limit that budget year after year, but there are 3 that are slated for demolition. They'll be reevaluated before we move forward with them. October, November is typically when we put those bids out. So we're working with the property owners to try to see if they can renovate the property, but should all else fail, we would do demolitions. Police department, we talked about the cameras, so they are looking at deploying some high street camera systems, a high street camera system. So that's budgeted for $10,000. Police department, we've been on a program now for the last several years to increase our fleet, modernize our fleet. So we would continue with our leasing program, and then we would have 3 additional vehicles. 1 for patrol and 2 for admin is the plan. Police uniforms, we budgeted quite a bit last year, over $40,000. This year it's reduced to about half, but we have several recruits anticipated in the academy, as well as, you know, typical replacements, and they want to add utility uniforms to try to reduce our costs for the uniforms should uniforms get damaged or wear out. The utility uniform is a little bit cheaper to replace. Additional playground structure in Nutter Park. So this is an ORPT grant that the superintendent of Parks and Recreation would apply for, outdoor recreation parks and trails grant. So we would pay half of that is budgeted. We put in a swing set 2 years ago. It's a beautiful structure there. Really spent a lot of money in Nutter Park the last few years. In addition, there is adding some security lighting on Nutter Park and Collins Avenue. Recently, the chief made some changes to parking down there, and we identified a need for lighting. So that is in this budget, $10,000 working with our electric department. And then because of Oyster House Park, one of the issues is we would like to replace the city dock with a similar composite decking material. The structure would stay the same. We'd pull the old decking up, you can see the condition it's in, and then match the existing decking that's on the Oyster House Park project. Again, it would be another 50% matching planning grant should we get that, and then we would undertake that project in this next budget year. There's some vehicle purchases in the electric department. One of the bigger ones is the dump truck to accommodate our chipper that we purchased. And then there are electric infrastructure projects. It's a 2-year process. We're going to work in Martin Farms, Rodney Reed and McKean Street. So that is in this budget for execution this year. We've been putting money in reserves for the last 5 years. This is the year we're going to execute that project, phase 1 of it. The electric department has a 3-year proposal to take down the vegetative buffer along the Seaford Industrial Park. Now that that development has grown out, you can see the condition of the natural buffer. It's outgrown its useful life. So we're taking it down and putting up a slatted fence. We did 1,000 feet this budget year. Plan to do another 1,000 feet next year, and then the final 1,000 feet next budget year. In sewer collector, the Director of Public Works has asked for a mainline sewer camera. We haven't had a sewer camera for many years. These are great tools for determining problems in the sewer, collapsed sewer lines, cracked sewer lines, blockages, things of that nature. Seaford Village Lift Station, the design is in the budget. So should this get approved, we would move forward with the design this year. We would come back in the subsequent years next year and with a good construction estimate, engineer's estimate, and talk about financing of the project, how we would pay for that. It needs upgrade. It was installed in 1984 and is, the department's limping it through currently. Sewer main smoke testing, that's in this older section of town, Center City I'll call it, with some of the infrastructure that's here. We have a lot of potential inflow and infiltration or I&I situations, so we are identifying them and eliminating them. It's best to get it out of our sewer system so we don't have to pay to treat stormwater. Down at the wastewater treatment plant, this is not a big year of expenditures. There's some meter replacement and RAS pumps, so not a lot of money down there. Pool, that's open again this year. That's the good news to report. But in this budget, the pumps have been identified and they're needing to be replaced. So they would get replaced before pool opens next year, but it's in this budget for $18,000. So if there are any questions, that's just a glimpse of the capital items and some of the things that are in this budget. If there are any questions, certainly myself or any staff member can assist council.
Okay, are there any questions in regards to the FY22 proposed budget? Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Charles, in the reserve chart there, you had the blue slot for the current year. And my question is that chart up to date? Were there any changes? Did that number go up or down for our current year drafts?
No, sir. This is what you saw at the last on the June 1st budget meeting. And I'll, maybe if you don't mind, I'll explain why the blue line is bigger than the brown line. Go ahead,
Well,
I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
For the last 3 meetings, we've seen the same or a similar chart.
Very
My
similar.
question is since it hasn't been updated on paper, have we gotten our reimbursements, any reimbursements at all that have come in?
Not that I'm aware of. I can update you, the Director of Finance and her team have submitted for a few, so we are awaiting those reimbursements and posting those to our account. But, yeah, this slide has not been updated to the minute. But
Also, you had presented a number of $33 million
yes,
for total revenue before transfers, and
oh, I went too far.
this, our chart shows 34,260.
Okay, so this 29.9 million is without internal transfers, and then 33,700 with internal transfers. That should be what you have on your budget summary.
It's not.
Okay.
Unless I'm missing something, but
The budget summary is correct. This may have gotten, we may
Okay.
not have updated
All right,
it.
so
The budget summary is correct. Those
the
numbers are
document
the
that
ones
we
you
have
follow.
is dated 6/8 shows total revenue of $34,260,270
June could have updated it before she
Yeah.
sent it out, yep.
before internal transfer.
Yeah, that number is correct.
With internal transfers, it's $30,467,440 without them.
Okay.
So,
Those numbers that you
close.
have,
Okay.
yeah. June did her final review of it because she has to go back into the budget once council makes their final decision at budget meeting 3, and she had to put in the transfer from reserves to balance the budget.
I just want to be clear that this document that's on everybody's pad is what we're voting on.
Yes, sir. Yeah, the budget summary that's in the document is what council is adopting.
Good point. Any other questions from council? If not, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2022, sorry, let me repeat that. Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2022 budget as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Councilman Holland, Mr. Mayor, I second that motion.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Santos,
Aye.
Councilman Henderson,
Aye.
Councilman Holland,
Aye.
Councilman McCoy,
Aye.
Councilman King.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you very much, and thank you to all the staff that worked incredibly hard on putting that together. Appreciate it so much. All right, next we have the recommendation from the Economic Development Committee on the incentives, and Tricia is going to present.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You have before you this evening a recommendation from the Economic Development Committee. We met on Thursday, May 27th. We heard a request from RMAB LLC. Mr. Kevin Thawley is here this evening representing this project for a reduction of impact and tap fees for 2 single-family lots located on Shipley Street, zoned R1 low density residential. Their Sussex County tax map and parcel 531-13.06-41.00 and 531-13.06-41.01. Just to acclimate you where this property is located, the yellow box you see on the screen is located between Shipley Street and Hall Street. So the property sits just between the Professional Suites to the north and West Manor Apartments to the south of that. So that's the property that we're discussing. On this property, he has plans to construct 2 single-family homes to be built there, and they're approximately 1,300 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home. For resale, he does plan to price these at a price point that it would indicate that it would be a homeowner-occupied house, and the plan is to do one at a time with the hope of starting in the fall or third quarter of 2021. When he purchased this property, he was aware, as you can see in the lower picture, there's the storm drain. He was aware that sewer connections were not at that property. They were on the opposite side of the street, and had received a verbal commitment of extension of that to the tune of about $15,000. Recent quotes have told a different story. One of those quotes that he received was $56,000, and the other being $25,000 to get that sewer over to the property to service the needs of those 2 homes. So he submitted a request to the Economic Development Committee seeking relief of both the water and sewer impact and tap fees. The committee met and talked pretty much at length. We've done this in some other areas, some other developments. One of the things that was noted by the committee that in the other areas, some of the infrastructure had already been there. So that's why the impact fees were waived in those areas. And after a lengthy discussion, we wanted to be able to help the developer. And the recommendation from the committee that's before you this evening is to waive just the water and sewer tap fees, not the impact fees. So those tap fees, water and sewer, per lot, per building, again, it's two houses, so it's about $2,675 per lot per building for a total of $5,350. And the Economic Committee also wanted to put the stipulation on this incentive that it would sunset 18 months from approval, successful approval from City Council. So I can answer any questions. Mr. Thawley can also answer any questions. Sure.
All right, questions from council? Councilman King?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Trish, I'm not going to try to be offensive, but I'm just going to kind of be devil's advocate to get some clarity. So if we make an approval to accept this, the builder developer has made a promise of, hey, I'm going to build these homes.
Correct.
They're not going to be rentals. They're going to be for sale. Do we have anything in writing saying that's what his intention is, or we just take it somewhat at face?
I have in writing actually his submission to the Economic Development Committee that states.
All right, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, other questions from council? Councilman McCoy.
And just for the clarity of the council and public, can you describe the term sunset when you say that, what that means?
Sure. So basically, if 18 months from today, let's say council approves this, so 18 months from today, if he had done nothing, or he had only done one, the incentive would not be available anymore. If he had just done one, he would only receive the incentive on the one. The other one would go away. So it would, in essence, sunset. If he doesn't do anything, it would all go away. That's sort of, from our perspective, that's one of our tools to be able to see that, this work is going to be done, and that these incentives don't sit on the books for 20 years and then somebody comes back and, rates are completely different at that point in time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Makes sense. Any other? Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maybe Mr. Thawley can talk about this, but my assumption is, having been in this type of business for some time, that you're going to do both taps simultaneously because you don't want to cross the street twice.
Correct.
So you're planning on starting this fall, so you'll have both of those done.
Yeah, and from what I understand, the relief will be when I pull permits. So we will pull one building permit pretty much right away, but when we go in and do it, we're gonna pull both across the street and then coordinate with the Public Works to bring the water in
Right.
if necessary in the same hole.
Right.
That's the big increase from what I'm understanding in the fees, is that we've determined that we didn't realize it was a state road when we
Right.
went in there, and the state construction and flagging requirements are considerably higher than what they were. We've done 3 other ones in the town limits so far. You know, it has been on the city streets and have been much easier. You know, you go in there, they're 6, 8 feet down, halfway across the street. You go in there in the morning and they've got it done. And this one, we're gonna be blocking a major traffic thoroughfare for the better part, I'm assuming for at least a day. So that's what the increase in cost will be.
So maybe it's you I need to talk to. The permit fee, the water and tap fee, is that in the building permit or is
That's
that in the
paid-
plumbing
that's paid-
permit?
That's paid when you get the building
Okay.
permit.
Yeah, those are building permit fees that
Okay.
you see in that.
So, the 2675 on the second would be refunded or at that, or,
I'm assuming that
At that
the
time,
permit
right.
fee would just be reduced
right.
by that amount of money.
That is correct.
at
But
the-
but the city's going to allow the construction of both services.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, now what
I
might
just wanna-
happen.
I want to make sure that he gets to do both of them at one time.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we would work with them to do that. What might happen, depending upon the timing of each building permit, you know, we might make the inspection of the sewer installation with building permit number 1, and then we would come back with building permit number 2 and finish it.
Okay.
But yes, sir, we would.
And I would assume, like you see in some of the developments, we'll bring the sewer over that other lot, stub it up,
Cap
and then
it off.
hook into it
Yep.
when we put the other house up. But, well, the intention is to do one right behind the other. I just don't really necessarily want to have 2 houses for sale right at the same time in the same period there. So, you know, as soon as we get one done, we'll start right on the other. You know, it's
Thank you.
All right. Other,
quickly as we can get lumber and materials.
That might-
other,
that might
other
be a-
questions from council? If not, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to approve the recommendation from the Economic Development Committee for the city of Seaford to waive the water and sewer tap fees in the estimated amount of $2,675 per lot, $5,350 total for the development located on Shipley Street at Sussex County Tax Map Parcel Number 531-13.06-41.00 and 531-13.06-41.01, with the stipulation the fee waivers would sunset 18 months from the date of approval by the council as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Councilman King, I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. We'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Santos,
Aye.
Councilman Henderson,
Aye.
Councilman Holland, Councilman McCoy,
Aye.
Councilman King.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Kevin, thank you for your investment in Seaford.
you.
We appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Trish.
All right, next we have the decommissioned police department vehicles.
Okay, so Chief of Police identified 4 police cruisers that are no longer useful to the department, and the city clerk put together a bid for those, published those, and we did receive 2 bids back from our bid solicitation, and you can see there, Chicago Motors was the high bidder in this case, and they bid $16,828 for those 4 vehicles. We have not dealt with Chicago Motors or Bay Ridge Motors, for that matter of fact. They have called us, and we've communicated with them. We've decommissioned, stripped the vehicles completely of anything usable, all identifiable markings that identify it as a Seaford vehicle. And then we are going to require a certified check from them, and We will turn over the titles when their shipper comes to pick them up, but we'll coordinate that should council decide to move forward with disposing of these vehicles in this manner.
Okay, if there are no questions, I'll accept the motion. Got a question?
Quick question for City Manager,
Yes, sir.
Manager Anderson. You said the chief deemed that these were not usable. Can you give us a little more insight on what that means, what that process looks like?
Yeah, so we have new vehicles. These are some of the older vehicles that we have. They're the old Fords that we have. And basically, the interiors are shot. They will run, they will start, but they're not reliable for patrol anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, if there's no further questions, I'll accept the motion.
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
Or a comment.
Okay.
I would like to remind everybody that this money will go back in to reduce the amount of leasing. So that lessens the burden on the leasing program. With that, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to award the bids for decommissioned police department vehicles to Chicago Motors Incorporated in the amount of $16,828 as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Councilman McCoy, I will second.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Henderson?
Aye.
Councilman Holland?
Aye.
Councilman McCoy?
Aye.
Councilman King?
Aye.
Councilman Santos?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you so much. Chief will appreciate that. All right, next we have the approval of the appointments to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Those names are listed in your packet. Stacy Spicer, who is present here tonight, will be taking over the chair position along with Al Temple, Mark Grassett, Rick Peterson, Scott Pickenpaul. Lawrence Pinnell has asked to be appointed, and of course, Mike Bailey will lead that group. If there are no questions or comments about the people being appointed, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, I will make the motion to approve the appointments to the Planning and Zoning Commission as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Councilman Holland, Mr. Mayor, I second that motion.
Thank you very much. We'll do a roll call vote. Councilman King?
Aye.
Councilman McCoy?
Aye.
Councilman Holland?
Aye.
Councilman Henderson?
Aye.
Councilman Santos?
Aye.
Stacy, you can't get out now. Appreciate you willing to step up, really. Thank you so much. Yep.
Thank you.
All right, so next, we have the approval of the Records Officer and Authorized Agent for FY 2020 for Delaware Public Archives. I mean, that's a title, isn't it?
That is a title. Council will recall that we do this annually, and our city clerk put this together and communicates with Delaware Archives. And the appointments are as follows. Tracy Torbert, our city clerk, would be the records officer. And then there are appointment of authorized agents. It would be Tricia Newcomer, myself, Charles Anderson, and June Merritt. These are the same appointments as they have been for several years. If there are any questions, certainly staff can try to answer that.
Okay, if there are no questions, I'll accept the motion.
Councilman Holland, Mr. Mayor, I make that motion to approve the appointment of records officer and authorized agents for FY 22 to Delaware Public Archives as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Councilman McCoy, I'll second.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Holland?
Aye.
Councilman McCoy?
Aye.
Councilman King?
Aye.
Councilman Henderson?
Aye.
Councilman Santos?
Aye.
Thank you very much. All right, do we have any old business?
No, sir, we do not.
Okay, reminder of meetings.
All right, we have one. We have a Sussex County EOC, the Emergency Operations Center visit on June 17th at Sussex County Operations Center starting at 6:30 p.m.
Okay, this is going to be a great trip. We're going to have some of the police commission join. I think I've heard from most of you. We'll go over, take a tour, get an update, and we'll send out some sort of announcement of when we're going to leave City Hall to everybody so we can tag up and ride together, but looking forward to that. Okay. We got weather coming in. All right, we're going to start off with reports. We'll start off with Councilman Santos with administration and IT.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My report has been submitted in its entirety. So staff has been worked on the fiscal year 2022 budget and presentation. They completed the staff review of the draft chapters for the comprehensive plan update. They met with the representatives of the Flow Smart facility in the Seaford Industrial Park regarding green energy purchase of their annual electric consumption. They met with representatives of the Seaford School District regarding concerns at the Virginia Avenue track facility. If I understood this correctly, it seems that they're considering shortening the hours and maybe limiting. Well, they're trying to. They've had concerns with people. Actually, Charles, could you expand on this for me?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Councilman. There's been concerns expressed with trespassing on the property, damage to the property, vandalism. So this is their first step. They want to try to limit the hours and control the public out there. They do not want to close down the track to the public, but they have to gain some control over the facility. So this is their first step. They wanted to make council aware of that. Thank you for bringing it up, Councilman Santos.
If that was to happen, I did speak with Charles a little bit, of other ways that we could try to still make soccer accessible, it's great pastime and, so more on that later. Other work, well, they've inspected the progress of the Oyster House project. It's turned out very well. They're working on command vehicle requisitions, orders, and reporting. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we'll go to Police and Fire. Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a report from Chief John Wilson. For alarms to date, as of June 6th, 1,100 hours, there were 373 fire calls to date, for an average of 2.3 calls per day for the year. 83 total calls for May, and 23 total calls for June so far. And that leaves an average of 2.6 calls per day for May and 1.3 calls per day so far in June. Under EMS, there are 1,594 calls to date, 10 calls per day for an average of 10 calls per day for the year. 324 calls for the month of May, pardon me, and 62 calls so far for June, for an average of 10.4 calls for May and 10.0 calls so far for June. That leads to a total number of responses out of the firehouse of 1,967 to date. Yes, to date, for an average of 12.4 calls per day. There were no significant incidents to report. The fire department did have some mutual aid for a fire in Laurel. Under apparatus, engine 87-2 is out of service for fire water pump issues that are recurring issues, and it's the oldest engine in service at this time. Is that correct? Yes, thank you. So I think they're developing a plan a long-term plan to try to remedy this, because they've put tens and tens of thousands of dollars in pump repairs over the last few years, and it's becoming quite exorbitant. So I do have some correspondence that I would like to read in its entirety from the chief that's dated June 8th, 2021, and it states, "Dear City of Seaford, as of Tuesday, June 8th, 2021 at 0900 hours, the Seaford Volunteer Fire Department will be placing our dive, rescue, and recovery team out of service. Dive 87 has been a valuable part of underwater rescue and recovery for many years to the City of Seaford, Seaford communities, Sussex County, and many other mutual aid partners. The department is faced with a lack of new personnel, equipment upgrades and maintenance, and training requirements to meet the needs of successful response team. Seaford appreciates the past partnerships with Blades, Laurel, and Sharptown while interacting in many incidences over the many years of service. This was a very hard decision for us to make, and Seaford Volunteer Fire Department feels it is the best interest to provide successful service through assisting with fire, rescue, and emergency medical services. Please feel free to contact Fire Chief John Wilson at 302-629-3112 with any questions or comments about our services. Dive Trailer 87 and equipment will be placed for sale after the Executive Board examines the process. Respectfully, John C. Wilson, 3rd Fire Chief. It's it's not even bittersweet. I'm sure it's a painful decision that the fire department has to make, but it's one that's necessary, and I empathize with the chiefs and the other personnel's predicament there.
Just a historical note, just reading the Seaford achievements out, Seaford, 63 years of service.
Yeah. So, yeah, I did see that. So it was 60, was it today, the anniversary?
I think it was, he's put like June.
Okay, so it's been almost exactly 63 years that the dive team had been in service, and you know, there's a little bit of history. It was a certified dive team before the Delaware State Police had their dive team, so you know, they've served much more than Lower Delaware, parts of Maryland and upstate over its history. And we do appreciate all the members' service over that time. So I'll continue with the report. IT, would you put up the pictures of the ambulance? Okay, already there. The B-87 is coming along in Florida. There are pictures on the Facebook page and displayed before you here. They did recently hire a firefighter EMT, Samuel Townsend, full-time, and the career firefighter, Samantha Lewis. She's moving on to another career opportunity. And there are advertisements for the hiring of part-time EMTs. The EMS fund drive is ongoing, and the $70 covers your home or anyone who lives in it. The subscription covers any unpaid medical costs that is from the Seaford Volunteer Fire Department's EMS services and whatever your health insurance does not cover. So it's a good investment. I highly recommend you support the EMS fund drive with at least a $70 subscription, and any other monies would be much appreciated. Under training, the next training session is June 16th. It will be held at Station 87 and the Seaford Boat Ramp for water rescue evolutions conducted by the Delaware State Fire School. You will note that it is water rescue, that they're not retiring the boat itself. They will still do water rescue, but not underwater operations. So fire department was active in several observances and celebrations throughout the community, namely Memorial Day celebration at Kiwanis Park, the Festival of Youth at Nutter Park, Middle Ford Speedway, and the high school commencement. Under police, Seaford Police Department, I have a report here that was submitted by Chief Kraft. You'll see a chart indicating year-to-date activity, crimes, and other activity, along with years prior. Under criminal, you'll see that there were 139 total complaints, with most of them being other, and I was remiss in not asking what other was. Yeah. So they must have been all minor because they're not in the felony class. So below you'll see the crime view chart
showing dates and times of day for these activities. Moving down to traffic, there were 164 total traffic contacts, resulting in 44 citations and 15 warnings. There were 2 DUIs noted, with none drug-related. There were 13 crashes, and all 13 were non-injury accidents. And below, you'll see some of the significant events that that have happened over the time. By no means are these all of them, but these were just key events that were of interest to the chief. In administration, you'll see that the administration was very busy, with especially with the block watch meetings. We had a couple block watch meetings, and the Arch Street block watch meeting, and the Bel Air Homeowners Association had a Zoom meeting in regards to block watch. Under events, the police department continues to support volunteerism by helping out the Nanticoke Senior Center with meal deliveries to homebound members or community members. SRO has been very, very busy with field day events, and I think he's about tuckered out. I think I saw a post on social media that's said something about him not being able to keep up with the youngsters. So, Seaford Police Department officers were in attendance at Memorial Day, and there was on the 5th of June, there was a promotional exam held for sergeant and lieutenant in which 6 officers were tested. Under training, Deputy Chief Rappa attended training for benchmark analytics, and there was a certified field training officer course at Delaware State Police Academy for 2 Seaford Police Department officers, and mental health and first aid training has been the first 2 hours of an 8-hour course where the chief and Detective James were attending. This is a key element in some of the chief's plans for crisis intervention and diversion to try to get help for those who, instead of routing them through the criminal justice system, get them some help, and then go through a different program. And if they get through that, they would not be charged, or their record would not be affected. So that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have Code, Parks and Rec. Councilman Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll start off with code. 766 rental inspections have been completed and is ongoing. And permit extended for 4 unit townhouses at Merrifield 2. And demolitions on 107 Spring Street, demo is done. And 105 South Pine, 114 South Market Street, and 327 High Street, they are in the process of being filled and grading lots. And all the work is routine. And I'll switch to Parks and Recs and touch on some highlights. The sidewalk extension project at the sports complex has begun, and they'd like to give thanks to the Public Works for assistance. They have 11 kids participating in youth pickleball and received good feedback so far. And they met with Nanticoke Watershed Alliance, who have interns assist for projects this summer/fall, and assisted with setup and breakdown of the annual Memorial Day ceremony in Kiwanis Park, and confirmed coaches for the youth summer clinics and begun advertising for them. And they held the 3rd Riverfest Committee meeting to continue working on logistics and event lineup. And I have a letter I'd like to read from one of the parents, and it reads, "I just wanted to extend a thank you. My son had such a great season, and this was the first official year of playing soccer, and it was a wonderful time. Coach Dave was great and really made the game fun, inspired my son to want to continue to play soccer. My son has some neurodivergent/sensory issues, and it's hard sometimes to have the patience to work with him at times. But I was so pleased that my son was assigned to a great coach. It may just be rec sports or just a couple of weeks, but it means a lot to me as a parent. And
Well
that
done.
concludes my report.
Thank you for sharing. Next, we have Electric, Councilman McCoy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll hit a few of the bullet points here. Since the last report in regards to the crew, changed the lights in Gateway Park to the new LED light, LED lights. Finished changing the lights on the Riverwalk to the new LED lights as well. Want to make a note that we'd like to thank Representative Danny Short and Senator Brian Richardson for funding the LED light conversion on High Street, Gateway Park, and the Riverwalk as well. And just believe it's going to provide better lighting and reduces the city's cost for lighting on an annual basis. Back to the crew, they did hang the flags for the Memorial Day service and cut down a tree on South Porter. In regards to the director, had his standard director's meeting, staff meeting, and council liaison meeting. Had a Zoom meeting with DMEC, Charles, and a customer about them going 100% green energy for the 2021 year. And a couple pretty amazing employees. You hear these names all the time, but Greg Brook, Nick Smart, director sending their names for the Light Up Navajo Nation project, which is a pretty awesome project. Over the next few weeks, going to continue to work at Wawa, continue to work in the Bel Air multifamily, add a second transformer at the Eastern Shore Metals, and continue changing the lights on Sussex Highway to LED as well. Been a few of the bullet points, Mr. Mayor, but the report's been submitted in its entirety.
Thank you so much. And finally, we have Public Works, Wastewater Treatment, Councilman King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I get into the report, I just wanted to take a few minutes after listening to Councilman Henderson's report on the fire department, how important our volunteers are in the community. So I just want to personally say thank you. You hear one department closing down because we have a lack of volunteers. I just really appreciate the time and energy and dedication that they, first responders, put in our community. So thank you. With that, I'll jump into the report. The report has been submitted in its entirety. I will start with the Public Works Department. Extremely busy throughout our city. They have personnel on vacation and still have some personnel out on medical. But with that being said, they've started spraying weeds. They're painting curbs, fixing water leaks throughout the city. They installed new signs on Collins for parking, and pretty much everything else is routine. I'll jump over to the wastewater treatment facility. They are now receiving all flow from Bridgeville and Greenwood, and the plant performance remains good. Still working on the membrane replacement. They have compost to sell. Some of the activities I'm going to talk about briefly over the next 2 weeks. Start with the Public Works Department. They're going to be repairing water leaks on Cannon near High. They're going to continue to paint curbs. As Charles alluded to tonight about the smoke testing, so they're still going to repair the cleanouts on the smoke testing list, and they're going to ongoing projects is replacing fire hydrants. And wastewater treatment facility and compost, they're just going to keep the plant up running with no violations and perform maintenance as needed. And with that, Mr. Mayor, that concludes our report.
All right, thank you very much. Do want to extend our thanks to our employees again for their hard work on the budgets. Appreciate all they have done, and glad we were able to get that passed tonight. So with that, I'll accept the motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I had one more thing to add. Mr. King just reminded me about something. So you guys know, I had a little minor car accident right today, and while I was out there and the police was writing his report, I had a chance to speak to Chief Kraft, and when Councilman King mentioned about volunteers and all that stuff, it reminded me about this. Chief Kraft mentioned that for the Community Police Committee, that they need one more person, preferably someone that will that might speak Haitian Creole or Spanish to make the group a little bit more, I guess, more
Diverse.
yes, more diverse. And he requested, he asked if I knew of anybody, and I wanted to see if council and mayor might have anybody in mind or someone from the public. So
I know the chief said he was working on that with Councilman Henderson, so we're waiting to get that. So, but we'll reach out to the community and see if we can't find somebody. I know he's reached out to a couple folks. So thank you.
thank you.
All right, with that, I'll accept the motion to go into executive session.
Councilman McCoy, so moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Councilman King, I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Good night. Thank you for being here.